Andrei, the founder of Trademark Factory, that offers trademarking services with a predictable result for a predictable budget. We're the only firm in the world where licensed lawyers and registered trademark agents will help you trademark your brands with a free comprehensive trademark search for a single all-inclusive flat fee with a 100% money-back guarantee. And today's question I'm going to answer is, what are generic, descriptive, suggestive, arbitrary, and fanciful trademarks? So there are 5 degrees how trademarks are measured in terms of their strength. Some of them are registrable and some of them are not. So let's go from the least registrable towards most registrable. Least registrable trademarks are generic trademarks. So basically a trademark that is simply the common name for the product or the service is called generic. So if I'm selling pens, the word pen would be generic if somebody wanted to trademark that. Or phones, right? So if I wanted to trademark the word phone, if I'm selling phones, I'd be denied that because they'd say it's generic. Or if I'm selling cars, I can't trademark the word car. If I'm selling trademarking services, I can't trademark the phrase trademarking services or just trademarking or trademark. Slightly above that are descriptive trademarks. So descriptive trademarks are more than just naming the product, but they do nothing more than tell the market about certain characteristics or features or benefits of your product or a service. So if you're selling printers, color, right? You can't trademark the word color because that's the feature of your printers. Or if you're selling accounting services, timely accounting services, that would be a descriptive trademark. So it's not generic, because if it was only accounting, then yes, that would be generic. But you're adding something to it, but what you're adding is only a description of the characteristic of your product. So timely accounting services, or pure gold bracelets. Again, the name of a product is bracelet, that's generic. Gold, that's descriptive. Pure gold, still descriptive. Okay? Above that, there are suggestive marks. So suggestive marks are those that give the customers some idea about your product or service, but they don't just describe a main feature or main characteristic or one of the main features or characteristics in a way that adds nothing to the trademark in terms of identity. So a good example here would be Trademark Factory. Right? Trademark Factory, when you hear the words Trademark Factory, you know that what we offer is trademarking services, right? But really the word factory does not tell you exactly how we're different from others, how we're better from others. It doesn't tell you anything other than in some shape or form we're offering trademarking services. So that's a suggestive mark. Now, above that, there's arbitrary marks. So they use dictionary words that have nothing to do with a product or a service. And the best example here is Apple, right? So Apple is not in the business of selling apples, otherwise it would have been a generic mark. But they use the word Apple to sell computers or phones or software. And none of this has anything to do with apples. So they use a dictionary word and they use it in connection with unrelated products and services. That's making an arbitrary mark. And finally, there is fanciful trademarks. So when you come up with a word that didn't exist, it means nothing. It's not in a dictionary. You just came up with that name and thought, oh, it would be a good name for a product or a service. And you give it that name, and it's also very trademarkable. So a good example for that would be, there's so many of them. And something tells me if I come up with a name as an example, I would get some comments that actually this means something in some other language, but I'm still going to give it a try. And if I'm wrong with the example, you're welcome to post your comments and correct me, but you'll still get the point. So for example, Sony, right, or Yamaha, this means nothing at least in English, right? Or another good word that used to be a fanciful mark, escalator or aspirin. Now they're almost, well, escalator is generic mark and linoleum is a generic mark, but originally these were the fanciful names. It didn't exist. Somebody came up with a name, they gave that name to their product, but they became so prevalent on the marketplace that people started using those names as generic names. So Google is another good example. So again, it's the easiest way to get a trademark registered is to come up with a fanciful name that means nothing and that doesn't exist, not a dictionary word, only means something to you, and then you build the brand around that. Below that is arbitrary mark that has nothing to do with a product or service, but is a dictionary word. And below that, suggestive marks. They're still registrable. They're strong, but there's always this dilemma that the trademark examiner goes through. Is this suggestive or is this descriptive? Because descriptive marks are not trademarkable and suggestive marks are. And here's how this works. If the trademark examiner thinks that the trademark is descriptive, really it's the job of your trademark professional to argue with them and prove that instead of it being a non-registrable descriptive mark, it's actually just suggestive, which is registrable. And there is really no strict delineation between the two. It's somewhat subjective, and what you need to do if you get the descriptiveness objection is to prove that while the trademark might describe in some shape or form the feature or the product or the characteristic of the service, it does much more than just communicate to the market what that characteristic is, right? As long as it's more than just describing, it should be suggestive. At the very, very bottom, you get generic trademarks. These are not registrable. And this is just one of many short videos where I'm providing specific, no BS answers to your questions about trademarks. So subscribe now and get notified whenever the next video goes live. No, I mean it. Just click the button right here that says subscribe and subscribe. Have you subscribed yet? Thank you. And if you have a brand that you want to protect, make sure that you go to freetmsearch.com and fill out the form and have us do a free trademark search for you and prepare the report and walk you through that and tell you exactly whether or not your brand is trademarkable. In Canada, US, European Union, Australia, and we're adding new countries. So make sure that you take us up on it and check if your brand is trademarkable.